Hi there, and welcome to the Psychology Hotline. My name is Jeremiah, and I will be doing my best to answer all of your questions as honestly and forthrightly as possible. Okay, and first caller. Hi there, you're on with Jeremiah. How can I help you? You want to know how to calm kids who have dealt with trauma at a young age. How to calm children who have dealt with trauma. I'm assuming you're a teacher. Yeah. And what grade? Kinder. Awesome. Hey, thank you so much. Teachers are amazing. Personally, I've been in education for over 15 years. I'm in my 16th year as an educator. And my focus has been on grades K through 5. So I certainly have quite a bit of experience with 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. Now, how to calm them? That's a very difficult and nuanced question. There's no one easy answer, as I'm sure you know. Let me give you an anecdote. This actually happened to me about a year ago. I had a student in my classroom, and he had been in my class he's a kindergartner. He'd been in my classroom for months at this point. It had been several months. I hadn't noticed any behavioral issues. He was a very sharp young man, certainly on the upper percentile, of intelligence. And he, one day, just had a meltdown. He didn't want to play, and we walk into the classroom, and I'm referring mostly to after-school programs, but he comes into the classroom defiant, just angry and throwing a fit, and I told him, hey, come over here and sit down. No. Excuse me, come over here and join your group. Now, big scream. Okay, I'll call him David. It's not his name, but I'll give this child a name. So I'll say David. I said, David, I need you to come over here and join your team and join your classmates. Again, big defiant. Now, hissy fit, crawls under a desk, and at first I raised my voice, and I was like, David, in a stern voice, look at me. He wouldn't look at me. And I found myself quickly getting into a fight. And I realized, okay, well, I can't get into a battle of wills with this child. I don't know what happened. My guess is something traumatic, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to him, but something happened. And I was getting combative with the child, you will do what I say or else kind of a vibe. And I realized, okay, no, this is not going to be effective. I don't need to butt heads with him. What I need to do is redirect his anger, kind of like in judo. And I said, okay, David, tell you what, you can sit over there, and the kids were interesting. The other kids in the class, they were kind of shocked by it as well. And so we had kind of like a team. It was like the kids, and they really wanted their lesson. They were excited to learn. So yeah, the kids, and they're trying to help me. And I was like, it's okay, everybody. Okay, David is just going through something, and we all can see how. And I'm just talking to them, and David's 10 feet away under a desk, looking at us. And I said, David is going through something, and unfortunately, there's not a lot that we can do right now. So what we can focus on is our own lesson. And as soon as David would like to rejoin the team, David is, of course, welcome. Aren't you, David? No response. Okay. In the meantime, everybody who's sitting up straight, sitting crisscross applesauce, we're going to give you a bonus prize. And I start passing out bonus prizes to the kids that were sitting in the circle. And we just had like a little huddle, me and about 14 other students. And as we had our chat, our little powwow, eventually David slowly worked his way back to the group. And he sat down and even raised his hand and got a question right, and I was able to reward him. And so, what did I do there? Well, I redirected, right? And let me be clear, it's as a teacher, I know that you know this. How you set up your rules in your classroom on day one is insanely important. And I like to make my rules very clear. You know, when I am teaching a classroom, I expect you to be sitting down, making eye contact with me, not interrupting me. And when you have something you want to say, you get to raise your hand. You don't shout out answers and so forth. And so I make this very clear. And I also make it really clear that I love teaching. I'm fun. I do voices. We do special songs and claps and rhymes. And I have a very big and very playful sandbox. However, if you're outside the sandbox, you don't get any of the goodies. If you're in the sandbox with everybody else, everybody has a great time. But it's your choice if you want to be in the sandbox with us. So, I made that clear at the beginning of the year, and I found it to be very helpful. In fact, the student unfortunately ended up being kicked out of their other aftercare programs, but he stayed with us. He stayed with us. His parents eventually did something else. But we were like the only aftercare program that he was allowed to be in. And I like to think that's partly because of me, but, when you're dealing with trauma and children, it's very dangerous. It's very delicate. And, it's something that I would certainly highly recommend you have a open dialogue with the parents about, as well as your administrators. But I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Well, I hope that helped. I don't know. I wish I had a magic tool that would help alleviate when kids are having meltdowns. And I just have to kind of play it by ear as I go. I have to listen to the kid, react. What are they doing? Some students just a firm voice, and they're like, okay. Other students, a firm voice is useless. And if you try to fight them or get in a battle of wills, it's just not gonna. It doesn't work. There's no workability there. So it's finding tools and always focusing on being inclusive. That's huge. You want to make sure that every student, in my experience, feels welcome and wanted, and that it's a safe environment. So anyway, good luck out there, and a huge salute and a shout out to all the teachers out there. It's so many people that do not understand the amount of work and energy it takes into being a teacher and decorating your classrooms and extracurricular things so much. So we really thank you from the bottom of our heart. Okay? The bottom of my heart specifically. Thank you all. Okay, next caller. Hi there. You're on with Jeremiah. How can I help you? How do you calm down from a sensory overload? Or let someone know when you're dealing with sensory overload. Okay, how for you to calm down? You sound like an adult. Okay. And you experience sensory overload. Yes. Well, it's very common. Even my wife experiences sensory overload. Some people are just much more sensitive to external sounds, noises, stimuli in general. And there's the jury is out as to exactly why that is. And from my experience, if you're having, when you're having a direct panic attack, one of the best things you can do is to start labeling things in your immediate area. Okay, I can be like, I have a white geode, this rock, right? It's a geode. Green Yoda, Star Wars, Baby Yoda, William Shakespeare, The Complete Works. It's blue. It's a Barnes and Noble book. It's got a kind of like a fancy type. Anyway, I'm just getting really specific in labeling things around me, because what that's doing is it's pulling you into the present moment. Because most panic and anxiety attacks stem from a fear of the unknown. And a lot of people who experience anxiety often had very unstable childhoods. So if your foundational relationship with your parents is unstable, when the bedrock of your foundation that will eventually be the house, the home that is you, if that foundation isn't solid, which it's not for many people, all kinds of traumas, divorce, drug and alcohol abuse, any kind of disruption from a stable environment as a child has pretty catastrophic cascading repercussions. And it's a weird dichotomy in psychology, right? It's like, okay, well, knowing that, does it really help you not feel anxiety? Probably not. So, anyway, that's getting to the root of the trauma, but actually dealing with it in our day-to-day lives. The old, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if you know that you are very sensitive to stimulation overload, of course you're going to avoid things like loud clubs, loud bars, things where there's lots of strobing lights and loud noises. I wouldn't recommend you go to a drag race. And I'm not talking about, men dressing up as women. I'm talking about the cars, because they're extremely loud. And yeah, just, certainly avoid things like that. One tip that my wife uses are these, they're called loop earbuds, and they just kind of like dim the sound around her, but she can still talk to people and hear them, but it just takes out a lot of the extraneous background noise. So maybe that'll help. And as far as letting somebody know, that's just a communication. That's just you having to be honest with whoever whether your partner, friends, that, if you are experiencing overload, communicate that with them. People are pretty understanding these days. I feel like the stigma around mental health has really opened up. The Overton window on mental health has expanded almost unfathomably in the last 10 years. So I don't think, you saying you're getting overstimulated or overloaded, it would be shocked if somebody was like, oh, you can do, I don't know, maybe, but my experience is that the people I associate with were all very open to the fact that, yeah, some of the people that we love experience anxiety and overload and sensory overload, and we'll help them out when we can. So, good luck. Try honesty, and I bet you'll be surprised with the outcome. Okay, we're all rooting for you. All right, next caller. Hi there, this is Jeremiah. Welcome to Psychology Call-In, and how can I help you? How to process someone leaving and not blame themselves for their... Okay, so how you're asking how to process a breakup, basically, or a friendship end? Yeah, like how do you deal with a friend leaving or a breakup? Am I hearing you right? Okay, so how to avoid... So how to avoid blaming yourself for other people leaving or blaming them? Well, blame's an interesting thing, isn't it? Loaded word. Blame. The reality is that we're going to go through phases in our life, transitions, right? You've probably gone through several. You were once a baby, you moved on to being a child, discovering who you were, your personality, your likes, your dislikes. Then you go into your early teen years, and you really start defining who you are. You start exploring sexually, and, eventually becoming an adult. So you've gone through, I'm assuming, at least 3 or 4 of those phases, yes? Okay. Young adult, okay. Well, it is very difficult, I've found, to let people be people and let others just live how they see fit to living. It's a shockingly easy thing to say and an extremely difficult thing to do in practice. It is shockingly difficult to accept everyone for who they are, and everything they are, and everything they're not. It's very difficult. It's like a bumper sticker. It's like a platitude. But it's also true. So this goes for yourself as well. We have to love ourselves for everything we are and everything we're not. And we have to love others for everything they are and everything they're not. And I'm assuming you're talking about, just somebody you care about, who, maybe you had a fight, or maybe they're just moving to go, pursue their dreams. Maybe they want to be a marine biologist, but they live in Kansas. Well, if you're living in Kansas, being a marine biologist might be difficult. You may need to move to the east or the west coast, get near an ocean. So it may have nothing to do with you and everything to do with their own personal aspirations. But you have to get really clear about what you're making it mean. So what are you making it mean that person X left? Because blame is always around. You made it mean something that you think it shouldn't be a certain way. Like there's a way that it is that it shouldn't be. Interesting, right? So is there a way that you think he or she should have behaved that they didn't? And if so, what are you making that mean? Are you preventing them from experiencing their own life, or are you worried about them? I mean, it can be many things, I don't like seeing friends go down paths of self-destruction. Hasn't happened too often, thankfully. And there's only so much that you or I can do. So I hope that helps a little bit. Again, ask yourself, what are you making their actions mean? okay? And is there a cost and a payoff to what you're making it mean? So you're making it mean that they're, foolish, selfish, uncaring, whatever. You're mad at them. You're blaming them. What's the payoff? You get to be right. You get to make them wrong. I don't know. There's a payoff. Whenever we're blaming people, there's always a payoff. And the more quickly you can get in touch with that, once you start realizing the cost and the payoff of negative emotion, it really starts to clarify how you're actually dealing with things. And you'll probably quickly start to notice that the cost of blame is usually exponentially higher than the cost of love and acceptance. So, I hope that helps. Okay? Alright, good luck out there. Okay, next caller. Hi there, this is Jeremiah. And how can I help you today? Nature or nurture? That's the question. Nature or nurture? Well, I think based on everything we know about modern psychology, it is truly and unequivocally both. That's an unsatisfying answer to many folk. You have the, I forget exactly when it came out, about 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago now maybe, was it? A researcher wrote a book on the blank slate theory, basically stating that humans are a tabula rasa, clean slate, a blank slate coming out of the womb, and things like gender identity and preferences and social behaviors between boys and girls are all taught by society, and that given, different parents or different environments, the children born would have completely different wants and personalities and desires. Unfortunately, that's not what the literature suggests. The literature suggests that even as, especially the Nordic models, Sweden, Denmark, even over in Finland and Norway, have been the most, I think the world would probably agree, the most egalitarian with regarding boys and girls, right? It's very open. Boys are encouraged to play with dolls. Girls are encouraged to play with trucks. They really, really, really make an effort to not enforce one gender over the other. And the result has been fascinating. Instead of humans becoming more homogenized with their wants and likes, what we've found is they're actually more divergent. More women are going into medicine and education and psychology, and more men are going into math and engineering. And this is basically the opposite result of what their hypothesis was. That, you would have more women interested in STEM, science, technology, math, and you would have more boys interested in kids, education, things like that. And it just didn't work out that way. So my intuition is that humans come out of the oven with a shocking amount of biological programming, probably more than we would like to admit. It doesn't mean that society doesn't shape us tremendously. and that we're not heavily influenced by our culture and the world around us. However, it does very much seem to be the case that a lot of our traits are just kind of baked into us. Our particular likes, are the things we gravitate towards, our sexual preferences, so many things are just kind of built into your genetics. At least that is what the literature suggests to me. Now, there's still the big debate about how much. Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? Is it 60-40? I don't know. But I would say, from where I'm sitting, I'm just hypothesizing. There's no definitive answer here. I would almost go as high as 50-50. Now, that is maybe controversial, but my intuition says that, man, there's a lot in nature that just comes kind of pre-programmed and baked in. And when you resist that and you fight that and you try to pretend it's not the way it is, you actually end up doing a lot more harm than good. All right, that about wraps it up for our session for today. Thank you very much, everybody who called in. I hope you have a wonderful evening wherever you're at. And for further questions, please feel free to comment below questions you would like to have answered. And don't be a stranger. All right, we'll talk to you real soon. Take care now.